everyone, welcome to Movement and Me, an initiative that is designed for budding artists across the world who wish to pursue their career in art. I'm your host Niharika, and on this show you will hear artists talk about their lives and the choices they had to make in pursuit of arts. We will also get to use some tips and key learnings from the lives of these artists, along with a detailed discussion on their areas of interest. So quickly hop onto a journey into the world of arts along with us. So just to give a brief, like a background of what it is that we discussed, Olivia Carter. I'm sorry, I did not name you completely in the last when I was introducing you. But Olivia Carter is someone who has had immense amount of experience, more than 15 years of experience in teaching dance and also being in the dance education industry. She started Dance at Tips, and she's also worked as the director of dance education at Hofstra University for more than 2 years. She's done a lot of work in the field of dance education. She's proposed and submitted papers. She's also had herself and her Dance at Tips feature in multiple places. And she's also been a part of a lot of podcasts where she's talked about the need for dance education and what it is the Dance at Tip offers. For anyone who's coming to watch the second part, I would urge them to watch the first part as well, because there's a lot more information on why you need to have a social media page, how to handle a social media page, and why dance is the best place to start having conversations, uncomfortable conversations about dance, about race, equity, inclusion, and so much more. On that note, Olivia, I know that you have started Dance at Tip in 2017, and Dance at Tips offer a lot many things. Now, I'm very curious to find out what exactly is Dance at Tips. Why did you start Dance at Tips? What does it offer? And everything related to it, the whole idea of creating this entire beautiful space for us. So over to you.
Sure. So yes, so I started Dance at Tips in 2017. And I always share this story because I think it's important that people know. I started Dance at Tips at the worst time in my life. Like, honestly, my husband was very sick at the time and we didn't know what was wrong. I was having family issues. I was having work things, and it really felt like my rock bottom. Like, it was a really hard time in my life. But the beauty about rock bottom is that you stop caring what people think. And your mentality is kind of like, well, I have nothing else to lose, because right now my life isn't what I want it to be in all these different pockets, all these different areas. So you know what? I might as well just believe in myself and go for it. And I do want to give a lot of credit to Lauren Connolly, who is now the COO of Dance at Tips. She's the person, she's been a friend for a long time. And I told her, I have this weird idea. And she was like, go for it. She really encouraged me to do it. So I do want to thank her for doing that. And so this idea I had in my head was that I kept coming back to dance teachers are busy. We're busy people. We wear a lot of hats. We have a lot of responsibilities. And so, my mom was a dance teacher. Like, I've seen it from all ends, personally and other people. And so what I noticed happens is that we sometimes get stuck, right? Or we feel like we're teaching the same thing over and over. Maybe we're a little bit bored, or we don't know how to handle this one thing. And so sometimes we just need like one little idea. And because we're such a creative type of people, dance teachers, one little thing can just spark a million ideas. And so I really wanted to create a platform that did that for people, that gave simple but effective tools, resources, ideas, strategies that kids would love, that you could do right away. And so that's kind of how it developed. And now we have a team of 8 people, which is incredible. You can see them. We feature them on our page. We just did a whole thing on our whole team. And Basically, we've done a couple different things. We do physical products. So we have cards that people love. People love our decks of cards. We have posters. And then we have a lot of digital stuff that you can just download and go and print out or use as a PDF and share with your dancers. We also do a lot of online courses and webinars too. But the main there's three things that we always make sure all of our products or services or courses do. The first thing is we always make sure it's backed by research, which I know you love. So we always do that. Everything is based in dance education theory because I'm a dance education professor. So it's always backed by research. And if we do any dance history resources, it's always fact checked for accuracy. So, with our products, you're getting high quality stuff. The second thing we care about is that it actually works with students and they love it. So before anything hits our website, it has to go through my students. If my students give it the thumbs up, then we say, okay. And everybody on our team, everyone on our team is dance teachers. So we have them try everything out too. So our stuff backed by research works with real kids. And then the last thing is that it must be able to be implemented quickly. Right? We want things that you can do tomorrow, you can do in your class in an hour. And so we try to make things really just accessible so that everyone can be inspired and give a great dance class and just make their classes better.
You have some very interesting points to make that I was just trying to note down, but I was like, that's not going to happen. I just have to keep them in my head. So I'm going to try and sort of, reiterate a couple of things. Research, you talk about a lot about research. I think, you and I have definitely agreed that research is important. And thank you for pointing out and reminding me. But yes, research is something that we seem to sometimes also give less importance to. Because we feel like it may not be necessary or as important as, say, a hands-on experience on the ground. But I think research comes from the hands-on experience and somebody just wanting to put all of that and document all of that on paper so that anybody who reads it, like, say, maybe 20 years or 30 years later, still understands the purpose and value of it and decides to learn from it, whether they want to continue doing the same thing or they would like to change or reform their ways of learning or teaching. Another thing that you really interestingly point out is that you tried out with your teachers as well. At times there are times where you create some content or you create a method or a way of encouraging or exciting students, but you put it to use with the teachers first to see if it's even possible to work with it. And I think that's something very important because we somehow tend to think that an idea that manifests itself in our head can just sort of be translated into action without actually going through the nitty-gritties of it. Being a dance educator myself, I have found that it doesn't work that way. If you just try and translate it onto paper, everything just gobbles up and it becomes a mess and you don't know how to control it anymore. Because with students, they are very curious. They tend to have these questions. So if you are someone who's intending to excite them into asking a certain kind of question, or even just to get them excited towards learning something interesting, it has to be built and, conveyed in a certain way. You can't just sort of, say anything that comes to your head and expect the students to be like, oh, I follow, because they're not in your head and it doesn't work that way. Exactly. So physically, it has to be in a certain way. It has to have a structure. And I think your dance set tips comes very handy in that scenario because you provide tools that make it easy for the teacher to understand how the process can be done and what are the ways in which it can be implemented. I recently saw that there was something called these cards that were going around. So if you could just tell us a little bit about it before I sort of get all excited.
Yeah. Of course. We have tons of cards. We love decks of cards because what we love about them is that you can use them in a million ways and you can use them to help support what you're already doing. So they're never really complicated. It just really helps. So we we have 6 decks of cards physically. So we have movement cards. They're probably our best seller. They have movement verbs on it, so they're great for improvisation. And we also have descriptive words, so it can tell students how to do a move. So if you do freeze dance, for instance, with little ones, this is a way to make it more complicated and kind of make it more complex and get them to do things that's outside of their comfort zone. So we have those. We have warm-up cards. We have 2 decks that are about Laban, right, with the study and notation of dance and dance concepts. We also have ballet vocabulary. And then we created a more silly game called Cards versus Dancers. That's kind of been the big hit recently that we've been promoting. And so it's a game where it's all about like jokes that we as dancers kind of take for granted. So it's a prompt with a blank. So it'll say like, Susie, you can't do blank in dance class, like just something silly. And then the other students have responses and they have to pick the funniest one. So it's a great team bonding game. And a lot of people have been doing it, you know, because we just went on winter break. So a lot of students, you know, before winter break, they're kind of crazy and they're not paying attention. So teachers like this game as a way for them to build community, to keep their attention. And so, all of them are really great and fun. And we also have a lot of digital cards too. So some of those decks are in a digital format. And then in a digital format, we also have other decks too that I didn't mention as well. So we have lots of great stuff. The possibilities are truly endless.
I kind of wanted to jump there and be like, yeah, I know, I've seen them. But I get the point. But I think that's very interesting because what you've essentially done is, you know, bring the complex and the difficult things to the student in a very fun and interactive kind of a way, which is what makes dance a great tool and a great way to explore really difficult or complex terms and ideas and thoughts. On that note, I have a very unconnected or unrelated question, but I think it's important because you talked about Laban movement as well, right? So we have something called the elements of dance and we have Laban movement, and all of that comes from, of course, the resources that we have been talking about for a while. So just out of curiosity, how important do you think as a dance educator it is for you to still read? I mean, yes, of course, it is important for you to go through the contents and, you know, the tools and stuff. But how important do you think it's for a dance educator to read and educate themselves and keep themselves up to date? Because sometimes I think we seem to forget that it's part of our responsibility to also do that.
Yes.
I don't know. I want you to answer that.
Yes. No, it is. You know, there's nothing like the feeling that you just taught a great class, right? There's that feeling you get, excuse me, you know, when you nailed it, right? Like the students got it. It was, you know, a complex subject matter, and they just fully reached all of your objectives and your goals. And so in order to, my personal opinion is to get that all the time, you need to continue to inspire yourself. And reading is definitely one way to do that. Connecting with and speaking with other teachers, getting resources, all of those things help develop you as a teacher and as a person. And what I've also found, you know, sometimes when I'm reading something, it's not necessarily a new idea that I'm learning something new, but it's reaffirming something I am doing already. So sometimes it's just nice to know, like, oh my gosh, like, right, I am doing that. Okay, let me make sure I keep doing that. So sometimes it's not about adding something new, but just reaffirming for yourself, like you're making good choices in your teaching, and to just continue those great habits or conversations or whatever that you're doing that's really positive. So I'm definitely a big proponent of that. And that's why through Dance Ed Tips, we try to help people do that in a way that's kind of quick. And they're already on social media anyway, so you might as well just get a little idea, you know, or some little research thing in there. So we try to help do our part by delivering it through social media.
I think that's quite interesting. Thank you for pointing that out as well. We have social media yet again coming to our rescue. So
yes,
please do not hesitate to use social media for educational purposes. Of course, it's already happening, but we don't necessarily give social media the credit that it deserves. Yes, it is great for entertainment. It's great to, enjoy yourselves every now and then, but it's also equally important to educate yourselves. So if you think if you have something valuable to add to what's there in the community, please go ahead, feel free to educate others on the things that you think are important. But do not forget to educate yourself first, which is the first and foremost. Before I move on to my next question, which is also very important, I want to ask you this thing which has been kind of itching at the side, like an itch, and I want to get rid of it. So I
Okay.
know that United States has a National Dance Education Organization, which was set up quite a while ago, and you have a national curriculum of dance as well, which helps you teach dance education in school spaces. So before I ask you about why dance education is important, can you tell us a little bit about how did having a national curriculum and having a national dance education organization help make it possible for you to, ease up the process of inculcating dance into your curriculum spaces and also create a room for dance education in the first place?
Yes. The National Dance Education Organization is incredible. We actually sponsored their conference this year. That's how much we believe in them. We sponsored their conference. It was the first time they ever did virtual. But that organization was really crucial in kind of legitimizing dance to people outside of our field. You know, as dancers and dance educators, we understand the value of dance, right? We live, we breathe it, we do it every day. So we know how much it has helped us become the people that we are. But when you haven't danced, and sometimes the people who are making important decisions about funding, about what kind of programming goes into schools, they don't dance. They might not dance. So they might not have that connection or understanding of what dance has to offer. And so the National Dance Education Organization really helped advocate for dance. And they really also pushed the creation of the National Dance Standards, which help us across the board. So just to give you a little kind of background, before they created the national ones, a lot of individual states in New Jersey, I'm in New Jersey, individual states in the United States created their own standards. And so what was happening is different states were teaching different things at different age levels. So there was no kind of baseline, and depending on where you lived and which dance teacher you had, you were learning really, really different things. And so what the national standards did is kind of help give everyone clear guidelines on what's developmentally appropriate. So for this age, this is what they should be learning because of their brains and bodies. And also it kind of evened out the playing field. So no matter where the students kind of live, they're getting a similar type of dance education. Now, of course, the dance teacher is going to interpret those standards and deliver them and teach them in a different way, but we still kind of can get more consistency and guidance across the country. So they were very crucial in that. I give them so much credit for helping kind of spearhead that. And I also want to give a big shout out to everyone, all the educators who wrote the standards, because they are so useful and just an incredible asset to our field. So yay for them.
Thank you for putting it out in such simple words for everybody to understand. So anybody who's listening in India or maybe somewhere where NDEO does not exist, go and look up NDEO and maybe just, get yourself a membership, because there's a lot to learn from there, and there's a lot that you can gain from all the work that has already been put up. And if you think there's something you can take from there and put it into your context, feel free to do so. I think there's a huge encouragement in the NDEO space as well, for diverse communities to present their work on dance education and dance related work. So please go ahead if you feel like your research matters, and if you think that you have something very interesting to offer, just feel free to drop in and submit your paper and see what they have to say about it. On that note, why do you think dance education is important? I have been sort of holding off on that before we talk
You've
about
been
it. But
waiting to ask me that.
yes.
So my COO, I just spoke about her earlier, Lauren Connolly, she and I are, we do a lot of research on dance education, but our passion project, our passion research is on the connection between emotional intelligence and dance. And I think that we've presented on this topic at the NDEO conference for several years now. And it's something that's really, really important to us. You know, our lives separately and together as colleagues and friends, we've taken very many different paths. And one of the things we keep saying over and over is that our dance skills are our life skills. And through our research, we've kind of pinpointed that what we're saying in dance skills is really emotional intelligence, and how that is translated into the workplace, regardless of whether you end up in dance or not. And so she and I have been doing a lot of research on this topic. We've also been talking and exploring a lot about improvisation and how that is also a great way to hone those skills and get students to work on those skills. So I think especially with COVID and the pandemic, we're starting to see more and more how much dance helps your mental and emotional health. And it's just been there the whole time. We've been helping students with their emotional health and mental health. Even if what the research is showing is even if we don't try to do it, dance naturally does it anyways. So imagine what would happen if we start to really hone in on that and explicitly do it. Like that's powerful, you know? And so I think that that idea is really going to help push dance forward, because school should be teaching the whole person, right? Mind, body, spirit. And dance does the emotional bit, the mental bit, and the physical bit. We do all of it. So we need dance everywhere in schools and at all ages. I'll get off my soapbox now. Sorry.
No. I think you should stay there. It's just very interesting. And I would like for you to keep talking about it, because I relate to it a lot, and I completely get it, because I feel it as well. Like in my body, in my bones, I feel it, and I know that it's actually true. And somewhere we tend to ignore that, and somewhere that's where the problem lies. When you're becoming a performer, you're expected to separate yourself from the performance and, you know, still be able to perform. But in reality, a dance never sort of, you know, gets disconnected from you. It is still who you are. And at the end of the day, if you think you're performing something that you're not feeling, it's probably because your body is telling you that it's not feeling it. So I think that is something very interesting. And we also had another member of our community talk about it on our podcast page, where she talked about how she is also trying to bring in all of these different ideas and thoughts together, and you know, have a conversation with people about it. And so her name is Heather Francis. She's from Utah, and, you know, she is also working on something called protecting the children from overexploitation in the field of dance. So she talks about how age appropriate learning is equally important. I think that's where the emotional intelligence aspect also comes into picture, because students at a certain age are only capable of sort of relating to or understanding a certain kind of information. You can't just thrust information that does not make sense to their bodies or their minds at an age which you're presenting the information to them at. So I think that is very, very true. So I have two questions, and I feel like this can go on forever, but but I feel like I would like to ask you those two questions as well before I end this meeting. But the first question is, what is your take on the current state of dance in the world? And I think, what is it that we should start thinking about moving forward? What is the one thing that you would think is important to start thinking about? And, you know, sort of keep in mind when we work towards creating a more inclusive space for dance.
So I think the state of dance is in an interesting place. I think first and foremost, we're grieving. I think we're grieving through COVID. We're grieving about not being able to dance as we normally do. We're not able to participate in it as we normally do, share it as like we normally do, teach it like we normally do. So I think it's deep. It's a deep pain to not be doing the thing that we rely on all the time and not being able to do it the same way. So I think a lot of that is happening. I think the other side to that is there's a lot of healing that's happening through innovation. I think people are getting really creative. I think people are finding new ways to share things. I think they're finding new ways to make art. I think they're finding new ways of connecting with people. And so I'm really interested in seeing, after COVID is over, I don't think we're fully going to go back to how we were before. I think a lot of the new things people have been adapting and changing and doing, I think a lot of it is going to stick. So I'm really interested to see which parts go back and which parts get added to and which parts permanently change. So I think we're in a big period of transition right now. And I think I would recommend people to just continue to be open and to just keep exploring. We're naturally creative and curious people. So if there's some type of creative itch that you're thinking, or an idea, or something's going on in your mind, go for it. Just try it out. If it doesn't work, you'll learn something, right? There's never failure. It's only a lesson. That's kind of how I see it. So just go for it, and always something will come of it. So that's kind of my recommendation right now.
You point something out which I wanted to ask you as well, but I'm definitely, Olivia, booking you off for another interview very, very soon. You're doing a lot of work on dancer tips that I really wish to talk about. I recently saw a video of yours where you were exploring different kinds of technologies that were available and softwares that were available for a dancer to, or a dance educator to learn from. You also did a session on Zoom as well, as a tool, and how it can be used, and how easy is it for dancers to try and explore it and interact with it. Along with that, you're also doing something similar with other softwares that are available out there. I would like to have a conversation about that as well, but we will definitely have to push it to some other
Okay.
time. But for now, I have something that I really would like to ask you, which is like my one final question, but definitely worth knowing from your perspective with everything that you've added on in this interview. You tell me, please, what is it that you would like to share with the people who are currently thinking of pursuing dance or thinking of becoming dance educators? What is it that you would like to share with them as insights, information, maybe just ideas, or inspiration, anything that you think? And it can be more than one, it can be more than 10, whatever things comes to your head. So go right ahead and share anything that you would like to share with them.
So it's a big question. I think my I would say my recommendation for people would be keep making connections, because I feel like that's where your power is. When you start making connections between ideas, different things that you learn, experience, when you make connections with other people, when you make connections to your community, that's, for me personally, when I've had the light bulb go off. It's never been when I'm on, just focusing on one thing by myself, all alone, that I've had ideas that I've wanted to really go after. So keep connecting, connecting to other people, connecting to the literature, connecting to yourself, to your values. When you start connecting, you see all these points of contact, and all these different things that you thought were separate really are all just one big web, and when you start seeing all those dots coming together, you're going to be able to stand in your power and make really great choices and be really creative and have a big impact on your community. So keep connecting.
You make me want to ask you so many questions. I just don't.
Sorry.
No, don't apologize. I think that's a great thing. I think it's definitely true, and I completely agree that during the COVID times, that's one thing that I've definitely done. And out of the 10 people, so you're the 10th person I'm interviewing, and I'm so grateful that you happen to be one of the 10th people that I've interviewed, and you're the first 10, which makes it even more exciting because I've learned so much from each one of the interviews. I've learned so much from each one of you, and there has been such a growth that has happened in this entire process. And I think we fail to see that each of our journeys is equally inspiring, and that each of us has something to offer to the table. We may not be able to see it in that moment, but it's there. We just have to look for it. We have to ask the right questions. We have to seek it. And you never know, you may just find it. And I think that's just the beauty of connecting and interacting. And we are social animals. You can't take that away from us. So whether be it on social media or physically, we have to interact with people. And I think one of the things that is keeping people sane during this COVID period is also the idea of socializing in whatever small fraction of amount that's happening, wherever it's happening. Um, on that note, Olivia, thank you so much for participating in this entire podcast series. And I'm so grateful for all of your insights, everything that you shared with us, all of the information that you passed on to us. And everybody, I'm so glad Olivia was with us. So if you have any questions, queries, doubts, anything that you would like to, even sort of have a conversation with her about, feel free to reach out to Dance Set Tips on Instagram. The link will be provided to you in the description box below. I will also find Olivia on Instagram, and I'll find and put her Instagram page as well in the description box somewhere. You also are more than welcome to write to us on natryamandalam@gmail.com, which is also available on my YouTube channel. And I will definitely pass on your emails to Olivia herself, and she probably will respond to them as well. Thank you so much, Olivia.
Thanks for having me. I'd love to come back. I think we have a lot more to unpack here. So love to chat again. And I really thank you for having me. Very, very happy to be here and have this conversation.
Thank you all for tuning into Movement and Me, an initiative that is designed for budding artists across the world. To continue receiving notifications on our latest episode, please subscribe to our YouTube channel Natya Mandalam, or look us up on Apple Podcasts or Spotify for more information. I'm your host Niharika, and I'll see you all next week.